from EdUSA, Pakistan. I think I've met many of you, not all. I hope to see the remaining ones of one I haven't seen in sort of summer conferences or something. But can you guys type in what city and what country do we have representation from here? So I know Lahore is here because Rafis has set up the webinar, but everybody else. And I see Edna. Wow, okay, suddenly everything came together. Oh, hi Roxana. I don't think I've met you before. Um, we have Chennai, we have Meera and Shanti, we have Roxana, Dara, Parnam, Suman, and I guess we have Edna as well. So, just to give you guys, some background on this. I mean, this is something, Education USA Pakistan really is very proud of having a very well-established counselors network in all the three cities, where we are. We're in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. And all our advisors, they work with a specific network of high school counselors. Um, who we kind of help out with a lot of things, and in return we get a lot of assistance from them as well, be it with the South Asia tour and everything. So I mean, I'm not a big PowerPoint person, so I have, I think it's 7, 8, 6, 7, very basic slides with like a few words in there. But we keep it more, let's keep it more interactive. I mean, the idea of this is to have more Q&A, because I think everyone understands why we should have a high school counselors network. But now we just talk a little bit about today how to set it up for individually for each city or for a country in general. So this is my fancy PowerPoint. It's not that fancy, but it's there. Okay, my voice is breaking up. I don't know what to do about that. Rafael, do you know what I'm supposed to do about that? Is there any way we can make this better? Okay, all right. Okay, so this was the topic that was passed on to me by someone, enhancing the depth and breadth of your services with high school counselors network. So just to give you some background on this, when I joined in back in 2012 in the Education USA Karachi office as an advisor, the first thing I realized when we were there was there wasn't a set network or a group of school counselors who we could reach out to, and kind of like get assistance to do outreach or in-house events and so on and so forth. I mean, Rosanna and the team in Lahore were already doing that, but there wasn't like a centralized setup where we knew that each city has a proper network going on. Individually, everybody, advisor, everybody was doing a great job. But I think on the whole, as a country, we didn't have a set network or a, good communications with the school council. So that's where it's kind of, we started off with. And what we'll discuss today is the benefits of why to set up a high school counselors network, how to, sustain it, how to keep them engaged, how to start, and then how can this all make a difference. So, I think the biggest thing is that school counselors, I mean, what I've seen in Pakistan, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a it's a career option which has a very high turnover. We see a lot of school counselors that come in and out, because they're looking for better opportunities in different fields and so on and so forth. So there was always hard to keep track of what's going on, within these schools. Also, I think the reason why we really pushed to set this up was because, as I said, individual offices were doing a great job, but then if we needed to send out some, standardized information throughout the country, there was no forum or network for that, and people would not take it seriously because we would just generally just send them a lot of junk email, I guess, which I think we still do at some point around, now as well. But generally, I think it's got much better. So the idea was that we could provide a forum for all school counselors to, sit and share best practices. Also to kind of streamline our activities, our outreach and in-house sessions for undergrad students. And also because I don't think there's any other kind of forum or network which kind of recognizes high school counselors on the whole. So I mean, Education USA could have been the first one. And we talked a little bit about the benefits and stuff. I mean, what we gained out of it and how it's kind of worked out. Also, I think this kind of put us in a lot of good books with all the private schools here in Pakistan. Um, and because we've done so much with the school counselors, like these counselors tours and stuff, so now they really do take it seriously. If we send out some information, chances are we will get a much better response, like compared to what we did a few years ago. So what we do is we do a lot of networking events. Each office, each city organizes quarterly networking events with the high school counselors. And I think this is the most important part of all this council network is to be relevant but also be visible. You need to set up quarterly events, okay, with the high school counselors from in each city and make sure that they're buying into and everything, they're on board with all the activities which you guys are doing. Now, I understand some offices do have budgets. Some offices do not have, big budgets to host events outside of their office or, order snacks and so on and so forth. But I mean, this is something that you can make your own. You can just, bring in cookies and coffee and tea and host an event, or you can go all out to a nice five-star restaurant and bring them in. So it depends, I mean, it depends on what kind of budgeting and what kind of funding each office has. But, starting this is very important. Having quarterly, networking opportunities with school counselors is going to take you, it's going to take everyone a long way. I can promise you that. I mean, we've seen the results for that. So, and another thing is what we do is when we do these networking events, if you see on the screen, it just shows Ducation, but it's Education USA Annual Plan 2015-2016. And this is something we share at the first fiscal years, whenever like school year starting in September or August, this would be the first thing we would share with the school counselors in the first networking event of the year. So the way we think about the year is, during school term. So, schools start in August, September. So this would be the first networking event we would do in August and September and roll out the annual plan. Okay. And once you roll out this plan, you give them a copy of this annual plan. I mean, this is all just generic and basic stuff we already do. But this kind of like makes it official. They know that, okay, this is what you guys are doing, and we've been doing it for a few years. So now they know that, if you do a back to school fair, what is the expectation from a school counselor? If you're doing a high tea with parents or there's a dramatic reading contest, what do they need to do? And, they're bought into it. So, all our in-house events and outreach activities have become streamlined. I mean, getting into a school for an outreach session, talk about the SAT or the 5 steps, has become much easier. And this is all because of maybe those tea and cookies we do on a quarterly basis. I'd like to think it's more about now they see the value in Education USA, and why they need to be, linked to us, or why they need to stay in touch with us. So yeah, this is something which, again, we can send out a soft copy of this annual plan. You guys can make one. I'm sure majority of you already have this or a better one in your cities. But yeah, we can help you guys out with that as well. So, once you have established a network, okay, once you do have, and let me ask all of you guys, does anyone have like not maybe an official or maybe like an unofficial school, high school council network in your city or in your country? Like Chennai or Sri Lanka or anybody? Have you guys tried this out? You guys can type in your answers. Not in Chennai. Okay. All right. All right, so this will be a good start. I hope we can start it up in Chennai soon. All right, Edna, you're a rock star. Good. Okay. So, so the next what we're going to talk a little bit about. So we want to keep it more interactive. I mean, I don't want to be the person who's talking at you guys. If you guys have questions in the middle, just please keep asking. Um, so, another thing is how to then once you've established the network, once you've done those quarterly events, once you've fed them tea and coffee, and hopefully some food or snacks, it could be samosas or anything, but once you're done with that, try to invite somebody from the embassy, make it look more official, in the first networking event, and then automatically you're going to learn about the needs of the school counselors. And this is what we do. We do a lot of event feedback. Once you obviously establish a bond and a relationship with the school, high school council, high school counselors in the city, you can figure out what they really want. And from there, what we've done is we've streamlined like workshops for the school counselors. So we've called it Counseling 101, 102, 103, and it starts from like introductory, people who are new in counseling, new staff coming in. So the schools will actually start sending their new counselors to us, and then we make a small event out of it. We do an in-house event where we'll invite all the school counselors and do the basic 5 steps if that's what it takes, or talk a little bit about the letter of recommendation, the college essay, or so on and so forth. It totally depends on the competency level of the school counselors in your city or country. What do they really need? I mean, do you want to really start from the basics, or if you think you're gonna, if they know a lot already, so then maybe you want to take, the next step and go into more like, get a psychologist or somebody to come in and help you guys out with, doing a session on understanding student behaviors and so on and so forth. So it depends, it's going to be, it's need based. So it depends on what they need, what kind of training they need. But counseling workshop is an excellent way to, get them engaged and keep it sustained. Another thing is the High School Counselors Academy. Now, what this is usually is, I'm sure everyone who's on this webinar right now has some U.S. representatives visiting you guys, in your city or country. So the idea is that as part of the High School Counselors Academy, what we do is every time, we have the South Asia tour here in Pakistan, that's a part of Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka as well. But what we do is we schedule counselors academies in each city where the tour is visiting. So to give you an example, I mean, we've been doing this for the past 2 years, okay? And what the Counselors Academy is basically, it's a very generic, those sessions where it's more, again, it's supposed to be like a discussion panel instead of a presentation. And then the schools that are visiting, the universities that are visiting from the US, they would sit in a discussion panel, like 3 or 4 of them in each room, or it depends on, how many you have in your country. But then they would just, share, like we give them generic and, topics about campus security, international student admissions, funding, and then, the entire half an hour, 45 session is designed or is working around it. So there's just a lot of Q&A, and what I've seen is that a lot of the U.S., a lot of visiting U.S. universities, or everyone, loves to interact with school counselors because they understand the value. I mean, these guys, the school counselors, are the people who can actually make or break, an admission strategy or recruitment strategy towards the U.S. If they've been to the UK or if they've been to Turkey or some other country, chances are the students, majority of them are going to end up in those countries. So this is why it's so important to get these school counselors on board, because they're the ones who are giving the students the first-hand information about, their higher education. So High School Counselors Academy is another idea, and this is, again, low commitment on your end. All you need to do is make sure that the school counselors are visiting and coming to the office or wherever you guys are setting this up. And if, we have the US reps coming in, I mean, just have a small networking. We do a small speed dating session with them as well, where they get to know each other, the school counselors in the universities. And this is all a part of the academy. Now this year, as we were doing, this was the 3rd time or the 4th time, I believe, we were doing the academy as part of the South Asia tour. John Lunn from Luther College, he came in and did a specific workshop on career counseling, and he went through the Holland theory and, he did a whole self-directed research on, like career planning and all that stuff. So, now it's going to the next step automatically. It's not something we're doing, it's just automatically building up toward, getting more out of these workshops. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about the Council Academy. Again, I'm more than happy to, share some more details with you guys if needed. As I already talked about the core networking events for the counselors. I mean, apart from just the networking events that are only focused towards the school counselors, we do a lot of these fun events in Pakistan, like dramatic reading or painting on a coffee day, or multiple stuff. I mean, 5 steps presentation. There's an undergraduate camp, there's a graduate camp, and then the school counselors are more than welcome to join their students and be a part of these camps and all this other stuff as well. So what we've seen in the past like 3-4 years is that this is really benefiting Pakistan, in general, like Education USA Pakistan, because it's easy for us to pass on any kind of information, and we know we will get some response. And if you don't get the response, then we pick up the phone and we call them and we make sure that we get a response. So even if they don't want to engage with us, we try our best to keep them engaged. And we're trying to. All our advisors are assigned to specific schools, so they call them. Figure out, do some chit chat, networking skills. I mean, that is actually very important as being a part of, being an advisor. You need to have some kind of PR skills as well to kind of keep people interested around you, because once you will always need their help, one way or the other. So, it's good to have them on board with you. Okay, so registered counselors across the city. Now we do have an internal database, and we have counselors from all over Pakistan that have been registered. And what we've done is we have them in 3 categories. So there's the Karachi school counselors, there's the Lahore, and there's Islamabad. So any relevant information that has to be sent out to all Pakistan gets sent out to all these 459 school counselors and principals and stuff. Otherwise, if it's a city specific, then they would only send out the relevant information to those cities, specific schools. Okay. I've talked a lot, and I'm going to go on with a few slides, but does anyone have any questions at the moment? I wish we had better internet connection so we could do more like voice instead of typing, but you guys can ask me any question you have at the moment. All right, I think I've put everyone to sleep. I hope not. So we'll keep the questions rolling. I mean, if you do have questions, please start typing them up. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'll continue with my presentation. So the next thing is, how can I start a high school counseling network? So could you say some information about the counseling workshops, how many counselors, and how would you do that? So we can give you specific, information about these counseling workshops. I can, put in a note. I also put in my email address later on, so you guys can send me an email. We do already have like a draft agenda and what kind of, different workshops we've done. So I can give you guys an outline about it, and then hopefully you guys can start them in your cities. And then if you do need the material as well, we'll be more than happy to help you guys out with that. Okay. All right. So let's move on towards how to start this network. As I said, well, the first thing is there's no free lunch in this world. I mean, but you do have to provide some kind of snacks or lunch to these guys to get them on board for the first initial event. So, if you can get a special, funding for this, I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be just a very nice high tea, where you have 3 or 4 snacks and cookies and, but it has to be with a low commitment. It doesn't have to be where the first event we do in the city or the country should be about a workshop. You're going to drive people away, because if it doesn't, relate to them, a specific workshop, they don't ever want to see you again. So that's why you need to start off with something very low key, something very low commitment, where you just kind of come in, where they all come in, to your office, or if you guys are going to a restaurant or a cafe or something, and keep it very, it should be a casual event where we just talk a little bit about what we do, at Education USA, what are the benefits of kind of like staying in touch with us. Also talk a little bit about, that if you stay in touch with us, we're going to get you in touch with US universities. If you need help with, so all that stuff, and all the stuff we already do at EdUSA, just kind of let them know, and, just reiterate that this is all what we do and we need your help. It's always good to, put them on, obviously put them on the pedestal because, let them think or know that, we really need them, and let them feel happy and, identify that, what a great job they're doing and so on and so forth. Because if somebody feels good about, and if you guys make someone else feel good about themselves, chances are they're going to still like to talk to you guys later on and then kind of stay involved with you guys. So, again, people skill is kind of important. But I think the most important thing to get this school the network started is to get the school administration and management on board. You can keep asking the school counselors to come in. If they really don't want to come in and the principals and nobody's on board, nothing's going to happen. So you need to get some of the school principals, the owners of the school, and these guys involved first in your first initial meeting. So let them know that, hey, this is the value, this is what we create, this is what we're creating, this is what we can do with you guys, and then automatically they're going to start sending their school councils because they'll see the value in this. It'll take time, If your first event doesn't do well, only 5 people show up, that's okay, that's perfect, For the second event, hopefully the word of mouth, if you do a good job and everything, you'll have 10, and then slowly but surely you'll reach that 15, 20, 30 mark, which is a good number anytime you can set up. If a university is visiting, your country and you say, hey, I can just get you 15 to 20 school councils, I think the visiting reps are going to go crazy because this is better for them compared to meeting 100, 150 students. So 15 school councils is equivalent to maybe, I'll say 150 to 200 students or better. So getting the school management or the principals on board, keep the first event, please make sure to keep it low commitment. You don't want to come and bore them or, tell them, hey, we're just amazing and let's give you guys a workshop. And then they're like, oh, we're never going to see you guys again. You made us sit after school for 3 hours or 2 hours. So keep it like, let them feel good about it. Let them just relax and enjoy it and understand this is a resource they have available. And then, start building towards it and making it, making it into a more official network. Call it the Education USA High School Counselors Network, say you're a part of it, and then, always there has to be a few incentives here and there. And I'll talk a little bit about what we achieved from these schools, the high school counselors and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think building a database is very important, okay? And then, even if in your first event, if you can just invite all the principals, for budget constraints or any other reason, but we need the senior management of the schools on board to kind of believe in what we're trying to do, and then, automatically the network is going to grow. And then we need to figure out ways of how to keep them engaged and sustained. So the next step would be a workshop, on counseling, talk about the 5 steps. And, instead of, another thing is, I always, discuss this with our advisors as well. Instead of the advisors talking and talking and talking about 5 steps, about how to pursue your education in the US and all that stuff, get some of the experienced school counselors to come and do these workshops. Get some of the experienced people in the field. It could be a professor, it could be a teacher, it could be somebody, who you think will be good. And it's always good to get somebody among the school counselors and empower them to come and give these workshops. Because then the other counselors are going to want to step up to the plate as well. Because they understand, hey, this is what's happening. Lost me, as in, can you guys hear me now or no? Yes, no? Okay, alright, good. Okay, so, what was I talking about? Specific workshops, yeah. Okay. Edna, you can always WhatsApp me later. We'll figure out but it should be recorded. So I think we can. I don't know. It might be something to do with the connection, but I think everyone else can hear me fine. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about scheduling specific workshops and making sure that to involve school counselors, teachers within the field instead of us, doing all the talking. I mean, this would always make it just works out. And then keep getting feedback from the counselors of how the workshop went, what can be improved. And always, another thing is, we don't need to have a high-handedness about over Education USA. It should be about, hey, we're starting this, we're new to this, we're figuring out a network. Let us know how we can make it happen. Trust the people who you think, go with their instinct, go with the school counselor who you have a good relationship already, and figure out what they really need, and then kind of like design your workshop and stuff around it. So it says, another thing is, what's the next one? Where is it? Sorry. Okay. So how do we make a difference? Every year we get an email from Ishrat and Kathy or someone about, stats, about data. This is going to really help you guys out with that, because if your school counselor understand, let them know that the reason you're collecting all this data about where their students are ending up in the US is so that they can, report back to the Department of State, to ECA, or IIE, and then they can publish that, and then hopefully next year the funding for, students in your country or cities will increase and will be more streamlined because they see some benefits. So, getting the data is important. Our Education USA South Asia tours have become much easier to organize because of having this network. All we need to do is we set up a tentative list of schools we would like to visit. We reach out to the school counselor in that school, and they set it up. They know exactly what's expected out of them. Also, the counselor academies, as part of the tour, are ahead because all the school counselors know this is an annual or a biannual thing, that this always has to happen twice a year, and they have to be a part of the counselor academy. So we get a good, a good number, a steady number of anywhere between 20 to 30 school counselors coming in each city. This is after school hours, but they know that, okay, there's going to be networking opportunities, there's going to be the schools and everything else, so it's a part of it. Scheduling school visits, it makes a big difference. You just pick up the phone or you just send an email to the counselor in your network. Any school you want to go to, chances are, if they're a part of your network, if they know what you do and they see value in your work, it won't be an issue scheduling school visits or even doing in-house events. When we do a lot of undergraduate camps in Islamabad or Karachi or Lahore, getting the students, like 5 from each school, is not an issue. Recruiting CCC students, I mean, we had to interview comparative college club students because we had, a big number. Yesterday, I just interviewed in Islamabad for the Opportunity Fund. And each school counselor had nominated like 5 students each, and I was like, I'll go crazy, bring them down to 2 each, and they did that, and we still interviewed like 14 students from all over Islamabad and Pindi and the neighboring areas. So again, this is all because of this network. And then let's say the IW is happening, you need student volunteers. Just reach out to the counselors. They're the ones who are going to nominate their students for volunteer activities and stuff as part of Education USA. And all these students and even these counselors, what they need in return, the number one thing is some recognition. What I've seen in Pakistan, and I don't know if that's true in Sri Lanka and India and other countries, is a certificate goes a long way. After every workshop, we would come up with a certificate that I would sign for the entire country, and they're pretty happy with having a certificate for attending a workshop. So a certificate is a very, very cost-effective 2 rupee to 4 rupee, investment on each certificate, and this would go a long way. Also, because of this fantastic network what we established in the past few years, we really started incentivizing towards the counselors to be involved with us. Another initiative what we've done, and I could do a whole webinar about that, is a counselor's tour we do to the US. So last year we took, I think it was 14 to 15 school counselors from all over Pakistan, and we took them to Iowa, Indiana, and Illinois for 2 weeks. Okay, this was a cost share program where the visiting universities funded. Some funding was from Education USA from us, and then some funding was from the schools or the school counselors. And then we went to the US for, I think it was 2 weeks. We went to 17 different universities in 3 states. And this really made it more official that, hey, these guys take us to the US if we stay, if we're visible to them, chances are we end up in the US for counselors too and stuff. So this really, it just went out of the point. I mean, and now our relationship is so much better. It's again, everything is more streamlined now. So a counselor, tour, that's again, we wanted counselors from other countries for this tour, and I hope we can do that for next year as well. So that will be an add-on to your high school counselor network, and we can work towards a bigger tour to the US for school counselors for the entire region. We're doing a summer program, the first one out of Pakistan. It's called Career Pathways, and we're taking 26 students and hopefully 4 to 5 school counselors with us to these 3 states we visited last year. And this time we're going to learn over the summer 7 different fields. So now the counselors know, again, Education USA is organizing a summer program, and if they want to send their students or they want to go, they need to be involved. We're taking the school counselors, we're ideally taking 17 to 18 school counselors next month to California and Arizona. And again, what we've done is we've worked with the local schools over there where they're paying for some of the stuff, and then we're paying for a few meals, and then the counselors who are coming in are paying for their airfare and for the visa costs and stuff. So, again, this is all the benefit they see. Then we went to Sri Lanka, we met Edna. This was in fall, where we were part of the CIS tour, and the CIS team flew us in from Pakistan to Sri Lanka. And we met, I think, 19 to 20 visiting US universities, and we were there for 3 days. So again, they see the value and why they need to be in our network. Basically, simple. So I know I talked a lot. I mean, I'm tired already. So I would love to now start answering questions. If you guys have any other questions about how to start a network or anything else. That's it for my presentation. So, yeah, questions? Let me know. How often do you meet with the counselors in workshops? So, as I said, more about the funding. Okay, I'll talk about that as well, Ishra. How often do you meet with council workshops? So, ideally we want to keep it on a quarterly basis. We do a networking event on a quarterly basis for sure. So when you think about a networking event, it should be quarterly, but then the workshops will be a part of that quarter. So, I mean, let's say each quarter you can do a counseling 101 or a 1 or 2 workshop and kind of like keep, continue from there on. But yeah, quarterly is, at least meet them 4 times a year. Can you share more about the funding? So, funding for networking opportunities, are we talking about that, Ishra? In regards to funding, I mean, what I'm understanding is that if we're just talking about what kind of funding we need for these events that are happening within Pakistan, I mean, this is again dependent upon what kind of funding you have for each office. If you really just want to do these workshops, I think the only investment you would need would be tea, a few snacks, and then maybe printing certificates and having like the counselors who come in and participate to give the presentations or the workshop or to conduct the workshops. We don't pay them anything. It's just we give them a certificate of participation, and then the other ones get a certificate of participation. We give them an appreciation certificate. So it can be very low key. Travel to the US. Okay, before I go into the travel to the US, I mean, see the thing is with okay, so with the travel to the US, what we achieved is so right now we're taking 17 school counselors from all over Pakistan, and I think apart from three or four, 14 of them are getting funding from their school. So the school is actually funding their trip. What these counselors are paying for when they're traveling to the US is only the airfare, which is not only, I mean, it's still pretty expensive. It's anywhere between 1,000 to 1,300 bucks. But it's their airfare and the visa fee. They pay for that. The visiting universities where we're going to pay for the accommodation and the meals we're on, on the day for their campuses. They pay for the ground transportation and whatever the bridge is here and there. So let's say we get there on a Friday and the tour officially starts on a Saturday. So Education USA will pay, like we here in Pakistan, we pay for that one night for the school counselors. And then when we're flying out from California to Arizona, again, there's this gap of a middle of a one day, and I want them to have some downtime, so we're paying for that one night, and then some meals. So last year when we had, we got a grant, so we could spend more money towards it. This year, I think what the only thing we're spending in total from Pakistan for this tour is anywhere between $7,000 to $8,000. And thinking about the impact it's going to do in all over recruitment for Pakistan, I think this is worth it. Okay, can we include high school teachers and principals? Yes. So obviously, I mean, if your students, if the schools, and majority of schools even in Pakistan, excuse me, do not have a specific high school, counselor in a lot of schools. But that's where the principal or the school teacher who does some counseling will be involved. Instead of a person who has a title of a school counselor, it could be a school like an activity coordinator, or it could be anyone. But there should be representation from each school. That's the idea behind this. It doesn't have to be a school counselor. It could actually, I know a lot of schools here in Pakistan where we've never met the school counselor, but we only know the school principal. They're the ones who want to be visible. Hey, that's fine with us. We don't care. As long as we're meeting them, it could be a school principal. It actually sometimes makes more sense to have a principal compared to a counselor. So it could be either or any, but it should be from everyone from a different school or a branch. That's the idea. How many schools do you have in this network? How much of review will it take and how much time to get this network going? As I said, keep the first network or keep the first event very low key, so you don't have to put in a lot of time into it. Like right, I don't know how the school year works in India or in the city you're in at the moment, but I'm hoping and I'm thinking it's very similar to Pakistan. Our school year starts in August or September and ends in April and May. Basically, this is not a good time to meet the school counselor because they're busy with documenting the acceptances, working with the students, and so on and so forth. But let's say if it is a good time, if the exams haven't started for India or Sri Lanka or any other country that's here, then it might be a good time to do a very low-key event, get them in a room, invite someone from the embassy, or get your react or somebody, where you say, come and have a quick chit chat with us, share an annual plan, say, this is what we want to do with you guys. What are your observations about EdUSA? What can we learn from this? And just do like share best practices and kind of like we want to that. So it could take no time, or if you really go into a lot of pre-planning and it doesn't work out, then you won't be. We don't want you to go through that. We want you to just think of this as an event, as any in-house event. Okay, obviously you have to make a lot of phone calls, but don't think about how much time will it take to establish. And the first time might not be success. You might have only one or two person, coming in. Hey, but those one or two people are going to be the rock stars for making this network the big thing later on. Okay. Could you share some ideas, activities you engage counselors in session topics? As I said, we've made this counseling 101. It's basically 5 steps, but more geared towards a school counselor. In that, we kind of put in about how to write a letter of recommendation, how to critique a college essay, how to help your students with a guided search of what kind of schools they should go to in the US, how does funding work, just basic stuff we do day in, day out with the students. This time we're just tweaking it a little bit and making it more specific to the school counselors. What's your advice on interacting with counselors who are very focused on Ivy League and big name schools? Oh, we deal with that, Mumbai, we deal with that on a daily basis. And this is my favorite topic because I am pretty anti-ranking and Ivy League. I'm not anti-Ivy League, but I just don't like the idea of ranking. And this is okay. I mean, see, the thing is, we still have those schools, and we still have 70% of the school counselors in Pakistan. They still want to come and boast as part of these networking events about how their students got into Yale or Harvard on a full scholarship and the dream and all that stuff. That's okay. Let them feel good about it if that's what they feel and that's what they think works. It's fine. We shouldn't be the ones saying, oh, you shouldn't go to a big name school or you should go to a big name school. We're unbiased. What we tell them is, hey, great, good for you. Now, what about those other 100 students that are a part of your school who will never get into an Ivy League, but that's where these two state schools or the community colleges, depending on funding, kind of work out. So again, keeping an open mind, not worrying about the Ivy Leagues or the big names or how they think, this is what's going to happen. Once you start meeting them regularly, and we see that change in Pakistan. When we took them to all these schools in Iowa or Indiana, obviously they were only excited to go and, look at Purdue because that's all they heard about. But when they went to like Kirkwood Community College or they went to, University of Northern Iowa, they understood, hey, this is a fit for one of their students, and maybe Purdue was not a fit for what they thought is a one size fits all. So this is again things that are going to come in and break up, and they're going to explore this more once they have a better interaction with EdUSA. That's what I think. Okay, I'm just listening, reading about, yeah, Mira. I'm just thinking about it. Quite a few different kinds of curriculum in India. I'm wondering how we can generalize. You don't have to. Advisable to have smaller groups of counselors. No, that's absolutely not the case or the idea. You should just keep it generic. Because see, the thing is, if it could be from every different curriculum, and we have that similar situation in Pakistan where we have students, schools that are IB, schools that are O levels, A levels, and then there are schools from the local metric matriculation system in Pakistan. But when they're coming to us, we're not advising them on a high school level. We're actually advising them and getting them geared to advise their students on how to pursue undergrad admissions or education in the US, right? So the idea is have a big network of everyone together, irrespective of the curriculum. Because this is where you're going to get the counselors in a room and they're going to share best practices. So maybe a student from the Indian local board was a bigger success story compared to a student who is going from an IB or O level, A level, right? But that's where you get them in a room and they start sharing best practice. So instead of having different groups, it's going to be a small group if you guys are starting initially. So don't worry about the numbers. Forget the numbers at the moment. It's just about setting up the network. So don't worry about the curriculum-based, networks. Keep one generic network that has every curriculum as a part of it, because your goal is, whatever they're doing here currently in India, it doesn't matter. The idea is every student should have an equal footing when they're getting and applying to the US, irrespective of what system they're coming from. That's why I think a bigger group, irrespective of anything, should be, that's what the goal should be. I mean, that's what I think, but it doesn't mean what I think is right. And if you think that it works for your city and country to have a curriculum-based group, we can do that too. I mean, that's again something totally upon how you think it will work best for you. Okay. So, we might have to, yeah, and that's the beauty of the high school counselors network. That you will have those. I have these school counselors, who, and we have, I think, two of our advisors in this webinar right now. I think Ruxana and Rakia. They can, discuss this as well. But the idea is, this is what it is. So the school counselors who need more understanding, you see them automatically being more in touch with you. They're the ones who are going to be calling you, emailing you, making sure you're coming in. But if you don't have a network, they don't know if they can kind of be there. You guys are easy to reach or not. If you guys are only thinking on just the students and not about the school counselors, they wouldn't know. So there will definitely be school counselors. I know there's still a few who call me every day and they'll ask me the most random and sometimes the most ridiculous question as well. But that's okay. They don't know. So I mean, that's what our job is, to inform them. So there will be some school counselors who will know everything. They might be the US grads here back in the country, advising, and you see, and they might not be involved in all of your events, and that's okay. You understand they don't need you guys around for all the events and stuff. But if they see the value in networking and they see that hey, us being a part gets us, in touch with these visiting US representatives and stuff, they'll still be there, but they might not be a part of the workshops. But this is where you use the experienced school counselors to come and train and mentor the other school counselors who need more time from a different curriculum. So if you get a school counselor from an international school, that we did that recently as well, from like an international school, like an IB school, an American person who would come and do a workshop instead of the advisors in the workshop and talking to the counselors from a different curriculum base, because that counselor has a better understanding. So again, this is where the best practices and everything kind of comes in as part of a larger network. Okay. How do you get the local schools to buy into? Look, everybody I think wants the end result of everyone's students. Every school's goal is that their students should end up doing well. Nobody I think in the entire country or entire world, entire our region does not. No school I hope doesn't think in a way that I don't want our kids to go to the US or I don't want our kids to go to the UK or anywhere. And that's okay. They can go wherever they want. I mean, our job is to promote US education. But you make them buy into it. That's why the first, event has to be very low key. It just, you have to take baby steps towards it. You need to start off with, having a very low key networking event and kind of just tell them, hey, this is what we do. If you didn't know about it, this is what we do. And then maybe, what we started doing in our initial networking program was we didn't even have an agenda for the initial quarterly events we started off a few years ago. We would just sit there and say, hey, how can we help you guys? And they're like, oh, we need more funding, we need more financial aid. And I think in every country, every city, this is the exact same thing that's going on. So that's okay. Be like, yeah, that's a great thing. Okay, so this is what we have with our student. He got into this or she got into this. And this is how the funding worked, and just share the best practices, and automatically they're going to start buying into it. It's not an overnight thing. It's going to take time. It took us more than 2 years to bring it to a level where we can organize school counselors network, these events, the tours in the US. But that's okay. I mean, I think it goes a long way. I mean, automatically the numbers of students attending schools in the US are automatically going to have a direct impact from these school counselors more than compared to what you guys would get the impact from advising local students. So I will type in my email address. You guys can send me an email for anything more specific. And the reason why we do a great job is not because of me personally, it's because of the amazing team we have, and how each office, as like our Lahore office, I think all three advisors are here in the room. These guys are pros. Get in touch with Ruxana, get in touch with Asma, get in touch with Rafia. These guys know how to how to effectively work through this network. They're in schools doing advising hours. They're there advising students. We got, opportunity fund students lining up, just to have an interview with us because of all these school counselors and network we established. So, yeah, you can reach out to our Lahore advisors. And then if you want any specific workshop ideas, send me an email or send Lahore an email. We'll be more than happy to help. Because when we started off, obviously everyone's skeptical about this, what's going to happen. But now what we see from it, I really, really believe that this is something that's really going to streamline the workload. And automatically you see the quality of students will eventually change where they'll be more informed, because if the counselor is more informed and they're already getting the first-hand information within the school, by the time they're coming to them, they'll have a better understanding of US education in general. All right, perfect. All right, thank you guys. Sorry, I think I talked a lot. I'm already tired with all the talking. I'm going to have a great day moving forward. But yeah, so stay in touch. Let me know. I hope to see some of you during the summer conferences and stuff. And we'll be more than happy to share any of the workshop material and stuff. If you are interested, if you need more one-to-one, advice on how to set this up, or if you did start it up and it didn't work out, or whatever the case is, we're here to help. So just please reach out to us. Let us know. Thank you so much. And thank you to Ishrat and Suman and Rafi and everybody for making this happen. I enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye. Thanks, Edgar. Thanks. Bye bye.